we happen to be talking about this beautiful work that is worship, this beautiful relationship that is worship between us and the divine, this beautiful way of mutual adoration between us and us, right? This way of being with people that changes us and being with the divine essence as she changes us. What if God worships me? Can you say that with me? What if God worships me? Now, you don't have to say it if you feel uncomfortable, because it can feel a little uncomfortable, right? Especially when we don't really understand and live into who God has called us to be and what God is to us and has called us to be to God. A God who worships me is quite the statement. I know, but follow me. Now, I get it. We've started to worship a very big heteronormative white Jesus that we constantly thank for standing between us and a mean God. But really, who, what, when, and why? Worship has become so God-centered that it risks the subjective colliding of our own things, our biases, etc., and often takes from the purity of God's mutual affection for us. Sometimes we have this wall up that's just between me and God, but if God does not show us how to be with our neighbor, then where is God? Because worship is less for God, I believe, and more for us. Intimacy. What if worship is us on the mountain of transfiguration? This space where God spoke, that God was well pleased. This place where God spoke about God's Son in such a way that the light shone on him and God looked and said, wow, oh, how I worship him. The beauty of what I've created. What if worship is the confidence that is spoken to us by God? What if worship is God in the garden that notices them even when they try to hide? What if worship is Genesis 3:8 that says, when God says, where are you? And who told you that you were naked? Who told you that there was a flaw in your beauty? The God who meets us and keeps confirming that who we are is good enough. What if that's worship? What if you not worshiping didn't stop God from worshiping you? Finding identity in one's worship comes from the core identifier, the God who is not too big to be small, not too hard as to not be broken by what breaks us, and God enough to stand as one who is not swayed by our questioning or afraid of our fears. Worship. There is nothing that can get in the way of God seeing each of us and seeing all of us. I won't go back. Can't go back to the way it used to be. For the presence came and changed me.
We declare that you are God that worships us. That's how much you love us. That's how much you desire us. That's how much you are for us. Oh, we don't have to go back to worshiping the way that we used to. No, you are inviting us into a new way of worship. Where when we step into your presence, we come with our full selves, fully naked and unclothed, and there is no shame, because what you have created since the very beginning, you declare good, and it is still good. The majority of U.S. Christians, 54%, now say that homosexuality should be accepted rather than discouraged by society. And here's the thing: so often when people talk about the church is shifting, people assume that the church is just changing their mind because they're just getting caught up in the culture, right? They're losing their way. But what we're seeing is that people are actually changing their mind because better scholarship has been done, better research has been done, and people are actually looking at the data, looking at what these passages mean, and they're actually having a change of heart. I think what we're seeing, church, right now is that there's a shift in the church. That's not a bad thing. That's not something to be scared of. Do you realize that the church has made significant shifts in its understanding and interpretations of different parts of Scripture throughout the ages? For 1,600 years, nearly all Christians believed that the earth stood still at the center of the universe. Why? Because there's a Scripture that tells us. But what happened? After the invention of the telescope, it led Christians to reconsider their interpretation of the Bible. So the church believed one thing for 1,600 years, but then as technology advanced, they discovered new things about the world and how things really work. Well, then they changed their mind about their interpretation. The church has done this. The church is seeing that, wow, the ways in which we have used these scriptures have been deeply harmful, and that we have misappropriated and misapplied these scriptures. So we need to change. We need to change. We need to do something. And I think we're seeing this change. I think in 15, 20 years, we're going to look back on this issue, and I think the church is going to be having some very different conversations. And so the question, my encouragement, my hope is let's not get stuck in the past. Let's do the work. Let's get educated.